As humans, most of us have a person who we know we can trust and confide in. Now, if you have an individual like this in mind, I'd like you to imagine for a moment that one day they tell you you need to commit murder or suicide. This seems like an impossible scenario to imagine, but for many of the people I'm going to be talking about today, this was their exact situation. I've been interested in cults for a long time, and I've researched it extensively on my own just because I'm interested and I want to understand it better. And over this time, I've gathered many reputable accounts of some of the most shocking cult events in history. Today I'm going to be describing 3 of the most infamous cults in history and the uniquely devastating crimes that they committed. In particular, I'm going to be talking about the Manson family, the People's Temple, and Heaven's Gate. Starting with the Manson family. Charles Manson lived a life of petty crime for most of his young adulthood and was in and out of prison. And when he got out of prison, he found himself in 1960s America full of impressionable, drugged-up teens who were open-minded and ready to do anything to rebel against their parents. And this was where Manson really thrived and where he could really get a following. In her 1985 master's thesis for Portland State University, Judith Bullis states that Charles drove across the United States of America in a school bus gathering followers, and that's how he got his start. But of these followers that he gained, he had a very tightly knit group of young girls who believed that he was the second coming of Jesus and would do anything for him, including commit horrific murders. Now, this actually happened, and the LaBianca murders and the Tate murders were carried out. The LaBianca murders were Leno LaBianca and Rosemary LaBianca, who were murdered in their own home, and Sharon Tate, a famous actress, and 4 of her guests, also murdered in the home. And these events were completely random. It seems like there was no reason for this to happen other than it was Charles Manson's will. About a year later, 6 of the members of the Manson family were arrested and brought to court, and 5 of them were charged with 7 counts of murder, including Charles Manson. Charles Manson died in 2017 in prison of respiratory failure. Now, the effect that Manson had on these girls is astounding, and it seems difficult to imagine that someone else could do the same thing, almost repeat it, but this next one is almost even more shocking than the Manson case. This is about Jim Jones and the People's Temple. In 2013, William Beltram of Eastern Illinois University Political Science Review stated that Jim Jones was a madman, a hypnotist, and a devilishly cunning preacher joining the ranks of Charles Manson. He used these powers to convince people that the People's Temple was a safe place where everyone was welcome, and it was for a while until Jim Jones just became extremely paranoid and mentally ill and thought that the government was going to get to them and going to ruin all of them, and that death would be a better option. And he convinced 918 of his followers to drink Kool-Aid mixed with cyanide, and it was the largest loss of American life until the events of 9/11. It's again just truly shocking that someone could have a power like this and to even convince people to commit suicide and bring that out. But this next one also involves mass suicide, except on a smaller scale, but of a much stranger nature. And this is about Heaven's Gate. Similarly, it's about suicide, but it's run by this man, Marshall Applewhite, who led a very normal life for a very long time until he met a woman, Bonnie Nettles, and the two of them just shared so many of the same ideas and ideals and religious beliefs that they decided that they should start a cult, and they did. They started Heaven's Gate. And the primary beliefs of Heaven's Gate can be found on their website, which is still around and it's still up and hasn't been updated since 1975. But on this 1975 website, Applewhite writes that the primary beliefs of the People's Temple is that they need to get back to heaven, and they need to reach the evolutionary level above human, and that means members of the kingdom of heaven who, as you can see again on this website, they're depicted to look like aliens, extraterrestrials, and they were even believed to be in a flying saucer flying behind the Hale-Bopp comet. So when this comet was coming, they decided that it was time to do their Earth exit, as they called it, and they all adorned matching uniforms, black t-shirts, black pants, and brand new Nike running shoes. and they drink a mixture of applesauce or pudding and barbiturates with a shot of vodka in it. And this is how they all went out. And they went out fully believing that they were going to the stars, that they were going to the kingdom of heaven. After learning about these cults, you can definitely see that they can come in many different shapes and forms and have different purposes and causes. And there's still a lot to learn about the psychology behind cult leaders and cult followers, and it's not a very talked about topic in psychology. But it is clear to see that the power of being a cult leader is extremely dangerous and can be very destructive. In this speech, I've informed you all about the violent crimes that took place in the Manson family, the People's Temple, and Heaven's Gate. And cults can be a difficult concept to talk about, but I hope that you all understand now the uniquely devastating crimes and events that can be caused as a result of these cults and the power that is given to them. Cults in themselves aren't necessarily positive or negative entities, but it is now clear that there is a possibility for them to be extremely negative, and there are cults out there still, and we can only just pray that they won't share the same deadly ideals as the cult leaders I've talked about today. Thank you.